What's up you guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be how I get a flawless foundation, flawless base, and how I make sure that I keep it on throughout the day. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of my tips and tricks that I use to get a flawless face. So if you want to see what happens, then just make sure that you keep on watching. So the most important step when it comes to a flawless foundation application is to make sure that your base is ready. So that means moisturizing. You can use a moisturizer from either the drugstore or a more high-end moisturizer, whichever one you choose. You can also get one that is perfect for your skin type. So if you're dry or oily or a combination, there's a moisturizer out there for you. And as far as primer, the same kind of thing applies. You can go drugstore, you can go high-end. I normally tend to go high-end with my primer because I feel like it's really important, and you can also have that for whatever skin type that you have. So I've already moisturized my skin, and I'm going to go in with my Smashbox Pore Minimizing Primer. This one is really good for my T-zone because that is where I have the most visible pores, so I kind of tend to stick it right in the middle. I don't really put it on my cheeks too much because it will dry me out if I do. So primer is really important because it's just going to ensure that your makeup stays on all day. That is super important because you work really hard on your face, so why would you want to sweat it all off? So there's a lot of things that go into what makes the foundation a right fit for you. If you have dry skin, you might want to go towards a more dewy foundation, whereas if you have oily skin, you might want to stick with matte foundation. You also want to make sure that you have a foundation that has the right undertone for your skin. So for instance, I am pink undertone. You could also have golden yellow undertone. It really just all depends on you. A good way to know is to go to the store, try it on, and really see what works for you. There's people at Ulta and Sephora that will help you match your shade, or you can go online. There's plenty of places online that if you just put in one foundation shade that you know matches you, it will give you a whole list of foundations from other brands that are going to match you as well. So today I'm going in with my favorite foundation. This is the NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation, and this is in the shade Mont Blanc. So something else that can have a huge effect on how your foundation looks is what you use to apply it. So you can use either a damp sponge, a beauty blender, or you can go for a brush. This is the Morphe Y6. This is the best foundation brush in my opinion. So it really just depends on you. Most people with dry skin tend to use a beauty blender because it's wet, so it gives your skin more moisture, whereas I can use either one honestly, and I think it looks good either way. So I'm going to use the brush on this side of my face, and I'm going to use the sponge on this side of my face just so you can kind of see the difference. Another important thing to keep in mind is what lighting you're in when you're applying your foundation, because it can look one way in your room and it can look way more orange when you step outside. So you want to make sure that you're using either natural light or like a ring light like I have. And of course, I know I've said this before, but you want to make sure that you bring the foundation down your neck. The one thing I will say about using a brush is if you are like me and you do your eyebrows or your eye makeup before you do your foundation, it tends to kind of be really hard to get around those spots. Okay, so this is the side with the Morphe Y6. This is nothing. So the brush does a really good job. I think that this brush makes your foundation almost look airbrushed on. One thing to keep in mind with beauty blenders is that they tend to suck up a lot of your foundation, so you will use a lot more foundation when you're using a beauty blender to apply it. So each thing has its pros and cons. Up to you to try it out and see what works for you the best. I try not to put too much foundation under my eyes where I'm going to put my concealer because it tends to get a little bit caked up if I do. And even when I do use a brush, I always use my beauty blender to go back over it just to make sure I don't have any brush strokes or anything. Once again, this is the side with the brush and this is the side with the beauty blender. So to me, it looks the same. So your next step is going to be concealer, and usually if you are using a concealer to highlight, then you want this to be 1 to 2 shades lighter than your foundation shade. These are the 2 concealers I use the most. This is the Tarte Shape Tape, and this is the Urban Decay All Nighter. And the Shape Tape is in Fair, and this one is in Fair Neutral. These are both really good full coverage concealers. Basically, you want to put concealer anywhere that the light hits your face, basically under your eyes, forehead, down the nose, and on the chin. And it's best to work in small areas, especially with concealer, because sometimes they can dry fast. This one in particular dries crazy fast, so I just work in sections. And for concealer, I've found the best way to make it look the most flawless and airbrushed is to use a beauty blender. So the next step after this would normally be your cream contour, if that is what you're going for. I don't normally do that because A, I'm lazy, and B, I'm not that good at it. But this is when you would normally want to do that. But for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and powder this. So you wanna use any translucent powder that you like, and I could do a whole video on setting powders. But basically, you just wanna make sure that if you're taking flash photos, you don't wanna use anything with flashback. This one, the Airspun, Coty Airspun, you can get this at Walmart. It's a great powder, but it does have flashback, so keep that in mind. If you want a good powder that doesn't have flashback, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the Laura Mercier powder or the Cover FX powder. And the best way to do this is just to take it on your damp sponge again. You want to make sure that no creases have formed, and then you powder everywhere that you set your concealer down. You want to be careful with powder because you can definitely overdo it, and that is what makes you look cakey, and nobody wants that. I just put a small amount of powder over where I'm going to put more powder, aka bronzer or highlight. Now this is optional, but if you want to, you can go in with a setting spray. At this point, I do that because I have dry skin, so I want to just get as much moisture as I can. So I'm gonna go ahead and just spray my face with this Flower Seal the Deal setting spray. And then I'm gonna take my beauty sponge and I'm just gonna press that in. And before I go any further, I'm just gonna let this set into the skin. That way it's not wet when I go to put my bronzer on. No. She broke. No. Fuck. Okay, so the next step is gonna be bronzer, and I just realized that mine is broken. But the trick to bronzer is to start out small and just build it up, because you can get muddy really quickly, especially if you're like me and you have a very fair skin tone. Another thing I really wanted to mention is that you could have Dollar Tree, well, maybe you could have really inexpensive makeup products, and it doesn't really matter. The thing that really matters, in my opinion, is your brushes. So definitely invest in good brushes. That would be like my #1 tip. And that goes for eyes too. So I'm just dipping into my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, and I am just taking this anywhere where a shadow would naturally fall on my face. So that's gonna be your cheekbones and the temples of your forehead, and some people do their nose. I might do a little bit of that. I'm not the best at that. So like I said, you just want to start off light and deepen it up as you see fit. And I really only come to about here when it comes to my cheek contour. If you bring it all the way down to your mouth, it can look really harsh. Oh, and this is my Morphe B31. This is one of my favorite brushes for bronzer. So the next step, of course, is blush, and I'm going in with the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in Feisty. It's completely up to you what kind of brush you use for this. I tend to go for a more angled brush. This is just a Wet n Wild brush. And the placement is kind of up to you too. Like, a lot of people do different things. A lot of people put it in their contour. I tend to go for the apples of my cheeks. And if you want to find that, just smile. And the puffy part right there, that's where you want to put it. The kind of blush that you choose has a lot to do with your skin tone, your undertone as well. And that's something else that they could help you out with at Sephora or Ulta. So the next thing is to highlight. So you can use either a liquid highlight or a powder highlight or both. Liquid highlights are normally better to put on when you put on all of your liquid makeup. Some of them do work on top of powder, but you kind of have to just take your chance with that. I prefer powder highlighters. This is the BH Cosmetics Spotlight Highlight Palette. This has 6 different shades in it. Yes, it is dirty. It has been loved. But basically you want to highlight on the highest points of your face. So that's going to be your cheekbones up here, your the tip of your nose, your cupid's bow. You can highlight your inner corners and your brow bone. Some people do their forehead. You can literally just do whatever you want, honestly. You can put it wherever. So I usually use my Morphe E61 to apply my highlight, but you can also use a fan brush. So the color you choose also, once again, has a lot to do with your skin tone. So I tend to go for more lighter shades like these. I can kind of get away with this one. I'm actually going to go in with a mixture of glow and vivid because I have this like pink thing going on. You can also spray this with setting spray if you want it to be more pigmented. So your final and possibly, no, definitely most important step is to set your makeup with a setting spray. And basically I think of it as like a sandwich. You want to have your primer and then all your makeup and then your setting spray. And both of those are going to ensure that it stays all day and all of your hard work actually stays on your face. So you can literally drown yourself in this if you want. Once again, you can just pat it in using your beauty sponge. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up my eye makeup and then I will be back to give you a close-up of the face. So this is the finished look, you guys. I really hope that you learned something from this video. I'm going to give you close-ups here in a second. I hope that the tips I gave you may make it a little easier for you to apply your foundation and to keep it on your face throughout the day. I really like how this look turned out. If you guys are interested in seeing how I got this eye look, I will be putting that on Instagram. But yeah, I really hope that this video helped you guys out, and if it did, please let me know down below. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, all of that. Follow me on my social media. My Instagram and Snapchat will be down below. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for your support. I know that I've been absent a little bit. I've been moving and a lot of things have been happening, but I am ready to get back and start making more content for you guys more often and consistently. So thank you guys for holding on while this craziness has been going on. But yeah, once again, I really appreciate it and I love you guys, and I will definitely see you guys in the next one.
In a space coupe, I don't let my plug walk. New freak, had to cut my other little bitch off.